Enterprise communications have undergone rapid change. The global pandemic has altered how we communicate and collaborate. More people are working remotely than ever before, and customer expectations have evolved. Organizations have accelerated their digital transformation to meet everyone's needs. But while cloud-based communication services are becoming the norm, enterprises need a holistic strategy. Is your business ready? You need to partner with someone who can provide all the components required to build a secure, future-proof network. Someone who protects your business with the most comprehensive cybersecurity framework, and who can harness the power of all your enterprise applications. That's where Oracle Communications can help. When it comes to the digitization of your business, you expect best of breed. We have over 20 years' experience protecting enterprise networks, delivering exceptional security, governance, and compliance, enhancing current and future business-critical applications, and supporting hybrid, multi-vendor, and multi-cloud environments. Because we know safeguarding communications is your top priority, Oracle Enterprise Session Border Controller gives you comprehensive multi-layered protection. Combined with our cloud-based SaaS offerings, it offers a 360-degree view on traffic, auto-threat detection, and adaptive intelligence. Oracle is a trusted partner with a security-first strategy and decades of experience in cloud innovation with rigorous and proven quality underpinning our best-in-class product philosophy. As the security landscape shifts, safeguarding communications will be fundamental to your business's survival. Are you ready for the future of enterprise communications?
Hi, good morning, everyone, and good evening, Dan, our keynote speaker from America. I'm Irene. My pleasure to be your MC today. On behalf of Communications Association of Hong Kong, CAHK, Wiseport Company Limited, and Oracle Communications, I would like to welcome all of you. Thank you very much for taking time off your busy schedules to join us at CAHK DT Forum Webinar Series 2021, sponsored by Oracle Communications. The theme is 5G, a cloud native journey on an Agile Cloud for Telecoms. Today, we have the honor to welcome Mr. Dan Bantukul, the Technology Strategist, CTO Office, Oracle Communications, as our keynote speaker. Dan has more than 25 years of telecommunications experience and is focusing on developing policy management for next generation data services. His expertise includes 5G service framework and slice selection, diameter-based control layer, voice over LBT and communication service providers, evolution to digital lifestyle services. Dan has been awarded more than 40 patents in the areas diameters, SS7, SIP, IMS, and intelligent network services. Well, now it's time to kickstart today's event. Let us invite Mr. Stephen Ho, Honorary Chairman of CHK, to deliver his opening remarks. Mr. Ho, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Irene, and good morning to everyone here in Hong Kong, and good evening to you, Ben, of Oracle Communications in North Carolina. Now, the Communications Association of Hong Kong, together with one of our members, Wiseport Company Limited, organizes today's online seminar on 5G and cloud. We have a wealth of webinars participants, and many of whom are ICT leaders in the telecom industry. We are very honored to have Mr. Dan Bantukul of Oracle Communications to be our docent today. Dan's topic today is Cloud Native Approach Critical to 5G Success. And on behalf of our association, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you and our gratitude to Oracle Communications' generous support to sponsoring this online learning and sharing today. The 5G is transforming the digital landscape of cellular communications. With it, we are open to uncovering a great many new cases and applications opportunity for both commerce as well as our daily living. With 5G and cloud, we can benefit from new types of enterprise applications, industrial automations, AI IoT, as well as never before exciting consumer experiences in gaming and things like augmented reality and virtual reality. Just to spice up our topic today, I would like to share some facts and figures with Dan and our audiences. Hong Kong, Asia's world city, is one of the major financial hubs in Hong Kong. At almost 80%, Hong Kong has one of the highest smartphone penetration rates in Asia. Our 4 mobile network operators have launched the 5G services since April 2020. In less than 1.5 years, official figures of 5G subscriptions in August 2021 has reached almost 2 million, with mobile usage data averaging over 4 gigabytes per user. Hong Kong is ranked number 1 in the 2020 Cloud Readiness Index, published by the Asia Cloud Computing Association. We have a robust ICT infrastructure and is consistently ranked among the best in the world in terms of digital competitiveness. And we also have a large pool of highly skilled ICT professionals, like every one of us here today. Many telecom experts say cloud-native infrastructure lays the foundations of a service provider's success with 5G. How can operators benefit from it? Dan is going to tell us all about it. So without further ado, let me pass the stage to Dan. Dan, over to you, please. Thank you.
Mr. Ho, thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Dan, as Mr. Ho introduced me. My role within Oracle Communication is I work within C2 organization, and my primary role is to look at the trend of the industry, and then work with the early adopter of a new communication technology, and see how it can benefit various different enterprises as well as the vertical industry. So with that, I have put together with this presentation that I'm going to be sharing. This presentation is titled Cloud Native Approach to 5G. And, this presentation is not about what 5G can do for you. That we have a lot of those presentations already. But what happened in the world today now is that right now, as we're talking to a lot of the analysts that we work with in the industry, 5G rollout is on. We have 165G deployed according to the number that the analyst came up. 140 of them are non-standalone, meaning that these are still 4G core, but deploy 5G new radio. And then 20 of them are standalone, meaning that these are the operator, these are the early adopter that actually start implementing 5G core, which is based on the service-based architecture. And as you can see, 5G is going on right now. And what we are predicting is that 2023 to 2024, this is where there's a lot of conversion from this 140 non-standalone into some of them going to be about half of them will be standalone conversion from the non-standalone. And out of this 60 standalone conversion operator, a lot of them already have agreement with the vendor to basically license their service and product to help them move from non-standalone architecture into a standalone. Now, there's a lot of this is a big step for the operator because some of the operator, especially the tier 2 and tier 3, that may not have IMS, voice over LTE or voice over 5G, deploy yet. In order to move to the standalone, IMS is a must because there are no circuit switch fallback anymore for them to be able to fall back for voice services. So, those are one of the main reasons why we see that there's some of the non-standalone is going to be a long tail, meaning that, they will be there for quite a while until they're ready to switch over with the implementation with the IMS voice. And here are some of the early adopter of the 5G standalone. And you can see the usual tier one operator that that we know very well, like Orange, Vodafone, China Mobile, Verizon, AT&T in the US, Singtel in Singapore, Telstra in Australia, KT and SoftBank in Japan and Korea. So a lot of these early adopter invest a lot of money, invest a lot of resource to make sure that they understand what they're jumping into when they start deploying a standalone architecture. And a lot of these operator that you can see, these are the red boxes here. All of this, there are more than 9 operator that uses Oracle 5G solution, and we are engaging with them pretty closely in implementing their 5G standalone core. And this presentation, this is what we're going to be doing, is to share the experience that we've been working with this operator in implementing their 5G standalone. What are they doing? The activity of the early adopters that we saw in the previous page divided into roughly 2 different tracks. The first one is technologies on the top. Okay, so the first focus that they are focusing on is the cloud and the software environment, so that they can implement their 5G standalone core. And the focus for the 5G service that they want to roll out is voice and enhanced mobile broadband. Nothing exciting yet. They just want to replicate the existing service, focusing on the consumer for the time being, and make sure that they perfected the cloud and the software environment, as well as the 5G new architecture that they're rolling out. So, going with the voice and eMBB is probably the safest approach that they're taking at this point. Next, they're focusing on automation and analytics, in which those are the 2 topics that I'm going to be talking about in this presentation as well. Automation is one of the key areas that they spend quite a bit of resource and time thinking about how to integrate automation into various different layers of the mobile network operation. And automation and analytics goes together. So analytics is another area that the early adopter also spending time thinking about the AI and machine learning analytics and how they can benefit the automation. And then the network slice comes next. Network slice, there's a lot of the holding back on the network slice because of the management layer of the network slice itself is trying to catch up. So the network slice will be the next after voice and eMBB get introduced into the network. So those are the technology track activities. The business track is introducing, the voice and eMBB 5G service. But then at the same time, there's a lot of interest in the private mobile network as well. So the business, a lot of these early adopter is also start spinning up the new business model in order to be able to engage various enterprise with the private mobile network service that they want to roll out. In order to do that, they also are organizing a group within their organization called Industry Innovation. These are the group of people that basically work and then try to engage with the vertical industry that they're interested in going into, such as construction, warehouse, manufacturing, utility and energy sector, and those vertical, in order to try to figure out whether the private mobile network will be needed, in what form, what kind of private network services and attribute will be needed in those vertical industry, as well as trying to figure out what the use case would be within those vertical industry. And also another area in the business track is the business partnership. Partnership is something that they're going to have to, a lot of the industry, a lot of the early adopter focus on, because they understand that they cannot do everything by themselves. They need to build ecosystem. And then after that, they're going to be focusing on the industry solution after that. So as the industry move into rolling out this 5G, implementation method, how you implement 5G matters a lot, and it matters whether, if you implement 5G one way, you might be satisfying consumer-based revenue, in which that's the same revenue model that we have been used to for the longest time. And if we implement 5G in another way, that might opening up the new revenue generation, which is the enterprise market, enterprise revenue. Now, a lot of the operator might think that, okay, I'm gonna go roll out 5G and focus on the consumer first, and then took a lot of shortcut and not thinking a lot about how 5G implementation could impact them in the long run. And once they roll out a technology into the network, it's very difficult to transform or refactor those technology so that they can satisfy the enterprise market as well. So implementation choices for 5G matters quite a bit. Why is that? 5G is different from the other Gs. If you look at the 3GPP, introduce a new paradigm within the 5G architecture, such as service-based architecture, which is based on service rather than network node, service discovery rather than having like the diameter host ID or point code, HTTP and REST API, which is very much a pretty big departure from the messaging that we normally see within the core network, and service proxy concept. A lot of those concepts does not exist within 2G, 3G, as well as 4G. As a matter of fact, a lot of this are much more in alignment with the enterprise web service paradigm that's consisting of service registry, service consumer, service provider concept. And if you dive deep into the various different 3GPP 5G architecture and procedure, you see that a lot of it mirror enterprise web service very well. And that's a good reason why they want to do that. There's a lot of good reason why 3GPP want to have a very pretty drastic departure from the traditional network architecture that we have been operating, has been building, and we're very familiar with. And before that, I'd like to introduce you with the concept of the enterprise and the MNO. And that's remind me of a book called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And this book basically talks a lot about, the symbiotic relationship between men and women, and how they are the same and how they are very much different, and how communication can help bring the two sides together to achieve understanding of the differences that men and women may have when they see the world. And I believe that the MNO and enterprise are very much the same. They have symbiotic relationship. MNO provide wireless service, which is absolutely essential for enterprise. And enterprise also provided a lot of customer base that is essential for the MNO. But there seems to be a substantial gap between the two. And this gap is not technical. This gap could be business model, could be the paradigm, how we think about problem solving. And also, I said it's not technical, but technical part of it is also a big gap as well. And when we talk about the cloud native, we're gonna bring out that why the way we implement technology within telecommunication created a friction with the how enterprise want to consume those services. So with that, take a look at the telco challenges today. In the past, we have enterprise consumer and telecom service consumer. And, a lot of time in the past, they're not the same. And then you have the mobile operator in the middle. And then we have a lot of legacy mobile application, private data model, private core infrastructure, and physical and virtual network. And a lot of this consumer now start merging into much more modern enterprise and telco service consumer. And the provider transform themselves into a digital service provider. And there's a creation of the marketplace in which the modern enterprise and telco consumer go shop for services like, OTT services, Facebook, Google Map, Twitter, and, all those other enterprise services that is available within this marketplace. And the digital service provider are the one who actually expose those services to make it available to the digital consumer within this marketplace. The challenge today is that the way we implement a lot of our service within telecom environment is quite very telecom centric, meaning that there's a technology, there is the paradigm, there's a thinking that's very much ingrained in the way we operate, we build the network, and the way we offer our service. And it make it difficult for the enterprise to consume those services. Enterprise has a lot, has their own playground. This is where they expose the service and where they consume and then offer the service to each other. And this playground, an example of how this playground is being used is in this next use case. If you look at the taxi hail application like Uber, okay, Uber doesn't build everything by themselves. Uber actually use a lot of partner, a lot of the APIs that's available on the web that exposes by enterprise services. And then basically the job that Uber did very, very well was to stitch together all these services. And these services are available in that enterprise playground in the digital marketplace, and it existed in the form of exposed API. That is very much easy for other enterprise to consume those API, consume those services. Now, I would like to point out the last partner that Uber used for their communication, which is Twilio. Twilio is a communication company that doesn't have communication infrastructure. In fact, they use the communication infrastructure that we invest our money and our effort into. Okay, but how come enterprise developers such as Uber or other enterprise services, when they need to obtain communication service, why do they go to Twilio rather than go directly to us, to the mobile operator or telecom provider? And the reason why is that it's easy for them to consume the service. The way we expose the service today is quite difficult for the enterprise to understand. Enterprise doesn't understand 3GPP. Enterprise does not understand anything about mobile technology. And enterprise would like to be able to have a service that can be embedded inside their services. They like to have different kind of a charging model, pay per use, rather than having a wholesale type of arrangement, a business model. So, in order to make it easy for the enterprise to consume our service and our next service, which is 5G, what we need to do is that we need to start looking at how we can transform how we offer the service so that it's easy for the enterprise to consume. And the first step in doing that is to use cloud native principle and philosophy. When you do that, it achieves quite a bit of alignment. And this is not just one alignment. Cloud native basically provides a solid foundation. And as we go through this presentation, we'll see that starting from cloud native implementation of 5G, it will springboard into the new business model. It will springboard a mobile operator to have to start thinking about how we can partner with the enterprise, how we can implement automation, and how we can use analytics to basically help us provide services better to the enterprise. Once we achieve that, the goal is to make 5G to be part of this enterprise service. 5G should not have to be a mobile operator service. 5G could very well be an enterprise service. 3GPP architecture was designed to do just that. If you think about that in the earlier slides when I mentioned that 3GPP created the new architecture for 5G based on a service-based architecture, REST API, a stateless API, as well as the various different other attributes of the architecture, is lined up very well with other enterprise services. Now, by implementing 5G, that achieve alignment with the enterprise from the technology point of view as a first step. Then it make it easy for the enterprise to consume 5G service. We'll expose various mobility services, authentication services, session management services, which is within the 5G, and make that available for the enterprise to consume in such a way that they can embed those services directly into that service, rather than having kind of like an arm's length relationship with the 5G service that offered by the mobile operator. By doing that, the MNO now become digital communication provider that basically start implementing a lot of other cloud native application. 5G is just a start. 5G provide connectivities. Now, when you start in the earlier slides, I mentioned the vertical industry innovation team. Those industry innovation team will figure it out, working with the vertical industry. What are the other services that the mobile operator can do in order to help verticalize the connectivity service of 5G to make it a very tight fit into what the vertical gonna need. And in order to do that, there will be more cloud native application that's gonna be developed by the mobile operator. There will be shared data model between the mobile operator as well as the vertical enterprise services, share infrastructure and everything else. It will make the service very easy to be consumed by the enterprise. And more importantly, it will make enterprise service to be easy to consume by the mobile operator. Why? Because, when you start going beyond connectivity, we're not going to, as smart as we are, as technology savvy as we are, we can't build everything ourselves. We're going to have to, once we go into this enterprise playground, we will have to learn to partner, and we'll have to learn to build ecosystem. Some of the service that very attractive, that we can see that it can augment our service very well. We can take that from the enterprise and use it. And then the service that the enterprise think that we can do very well, they're going to want from us and use it. So it's an ecosystem building. Now, if you look at the early adopter, all the early adopter that start building 5G standalone architecture went with the cloud native deployment. A lot of them, and then we'll go through that and then see how they build this infrastructure and how they deploy a lot of these services. But if you look at this diagram here, the block that encoded in red, those are the Oracle services that we offer to this early adopter. Some of them more, some of them less. And if you look at the cloud native environment for various different operators, you see that there's a lot of that wide variety of the cloud native environment that being implemented within this early adopter. But one thing though that I would like to point out is that this early adopter invested a lot of money and transformed themselves to try to understand this technology. They need to understand this technology, not just to build 5G, but they understand that these are the technology, these are the cloud native technology that they're going to need if they want to start working with the enterprise. They're going to need to build enterprise services. And in order to build enterprise services, we have to use the same environment that the enterprise build their service, which is cloud native environment. And this is how we can achieve the alignment with the enterprise services. It's not the technology, it's not the software tool that we use, but it is the paradigm, the philosophy of cloud native that's gonna make us achieve alignment with the enterprise. For example, how the failure mode, how do we fail? How do we scale our service? How do we locate our service? How can the enterprise locate the service that we want to expose to them? Those are the philosophy and paradigm that is part of the cloud native thinking. The software tool, the various architecture, those are just a mechanic of achieving those philosophy and paradigm. So, I don't want you to think that, okay, cloud native is just technology. It's not. It is a mindset, and we need to get to that mindset. And in order to get to that mindset, a lot of these tools that offered by the Cloud Native Foundation is already implemented according to those mindset. So we don't have to reinvent it again. And that's one of the reasons why Cloud Native environment, building 5G using Cloud Native is such an important step. in order, if you want to start working with the enterprise in the future. Now, Oracle, as I mentioned before, involved with 5G rollout, and we work quite a bit with the early adopter, the tier 1 early adopter, in the sense that we go into 3GPP and push some of the feature within 5G architecture with the operator like Verizon, and we also help them and then work with them implementing the cloud native environment. Because Oracle is a cloud company, we have been operating in the cloud native environment to build a lot about enterprise services. So we have a lot of people within Oracle that know cloud native very well. And we can provide them this early adopter with a lot of gotcha, with a lot of some, the pitfall and some advice that, that we believe can help them to achieve the goal of building the cloud native environment. So what I would like to do to the rest of the presentation is to share with you a lot of this insight that we gain working with this early adopter. What are they thinking? Some of the gotcha of when you start building this the cloud native environment. And first, we're going to take a look at the environment itself. Okay, who's doing it? How they built it? Secondly, agility. Having a cloud native, be able to deploy microservice and container and Kubernetes, that is fine. It's a cache phase. Oh, I want cloud native and things like that. But in order to take advantage of that, though, we have to we have to start thinking about how to achieve agility based on this to take advantage of this cloud native environment. And achieve agility, meaning that not being able to deploy 5G service very quickly, but more of how can I respond to the changing environment of the enterprise market that I'm going into very quickly. So that's agility. And then the third one that we're going to take a look at as part of this cloud native deployment is automation. Why do you want to achieve automation, and how do you do it? And then after that, we'll take a look at the business transformation, because when you start working with the enterprise, there's going to be some new tooling, business tooling that we're going to have to do in order to start supporting partnership model, ecosystem model, and then some new charging and settlement model that we may not be familiar with. So a lot of these operator, early adopter, not only working on this green area of the cloud environment, they spend time thinking about this in a heuristic fashion, meaning that cloud native environment doesn't exist in a vacuum. In order to take advantage of the cloud native environment, we have to think about agility, automation, and business transformation at the same time. Or else, just implementing the cloud native environment without going through this thinking, going through this process of transformation, it will be kind of difficult to achieve the goal of working, being successful working with the enterprise. So let's take a look at the environment. So cloud is something that everybody, every operator want to work with, because there's a lot of advantage of economy of scale. Within the cloud, you have cloud resources. These are the hardware, operating system, the compute, the storage, the networking, and then you also have a software environment that is required to run 5G workload. this is the same environment that we're going to be using to run other enterprise services as well. And if you look at this environment, right, and bring that into the edge, and this is where the private network come into play. By building the software environment properly, you can achieve what we call the workload portability, meaning that we can bring 5G workload and then distribute that workload toward the edge in a very dynamic fashion. Depends on what part of 5G service you need at the edge. That really depends on the use case. The use case could be dynamic, could be changing hourly, and different part of 5G need to be swapped in, swap out. Depends on the need. And then at the same time, you also have the enterprise part of the enterprise service that need to be run at the edge as well to achieve a use case such as the low latency use case. So, these are the environment that is a lot of the operator is spending a lot of time and money. We started this off about 8 years ago, when the NFV started getting introduced into the telecom environment. And so, we talk a lot about the cloud environment, but with the cloud native environment, what you're going to see in the subsequent slides, that the software environment is a big departure from what we've seen in the NFV. So with that, let's go ahead and then do a poll question. Would you consider a public cloud as a cloud infrastructure for your 5G service? When we talk about the public cloud, we talk about AWS, we talk about Oracle Public Cloud, we talk about Google Cloud, Microsoft Cloud, Azure. Would you consider that for 5G service? Since 5G service is, by the name, right, is cloud native. So it should be able to run on any kind of infrastructure. It could run on a private cloud, public cloud. So let's wait until the poll close, and then I wanna make one point of why I would like to come up with this poll question. Okay, this is very good. Okay, this poll question was used about 3 or 4 years ago, and no was the biggest percentage, because there's a lot of misconception that public cloud is not secure, public cloud is not scalable, but as we know now that when we gone through the experience of building cloud technology, right? We know that we spent a lot of money and we didn't get a lot of return. A lot of time we found out that the technology that we deploy in our private cloud doesn't take advantage of riding the technology curve that the other cloud provider is riding. So the recently when you see AT&T basically saying that Microsoft comes in and then basically take over the operation of that cloud. Basically, they're saying that I satisfy my curiosity. I spent billions of dollars satisfying that I'm not good at building cloud. Let's go ahead and get somebody that is good and understand and do cloud as for a living, and let them do the thing that they do well. And and then this is the first step that AT&T took to basically start moving toward the direction of building partnership, building the ecosystem with the enterprise. And this is one of the main reasons why I want to have this poll question. Now, when we talk about cloud native, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of the cloud native is becoming kind of like a buzzword within the industry. The cloud native environment that I talk about, as I mentioned earlier, is the cloud native philosophy and paradigm. That is the guiding principle that is that is used within the cloud native computing foundation, and that paradigm talk about how a particular service or microservice scale, how it die, how it get restarted, and how it maintain its own state and things like that. Those are the philosophy, and it happened to be that a lot of tool that was built to satisfy those philosophy, and we heard of before, like Kubernetes. We heard a lot about that. Docker container, the Grafana. A lot of these tools are the one that actually created in order to satisfy this philosophy, and is designed to run on any infrastructure, any cloud, private cloud, even physical infrastructure. This is the software environment that's sitting on top of the cloud infrastructure that basically provided the environment so that 5G implementation can be implemented and can be run. If you look at the cloud native implementation of 5G, from a lot of the vendor, including Oracle, it consisting of microservices, and they're wrapped around by the Docker container, and the life cycle being managed by Kubernetes. And if you think of it that way, right? That could be almost any enterprise service. Any enterprise service can be said the same way. It's built as a microservice. It's got wrapped around by the Docker container or some other container, and it's being managed by Kubernetes or other container management. But a lot of those tools are the tool within the repertoire of the cloud native computing foundation, and it is designed with the philosophy that allow you to basically scale the service, to the web scale. If you look at the Google Map, Google Map run on Kubernetes, and it scale very, very well. It's automated. A single push button, and I can deploy a private network. Amazon just announced about a week ago, they're offering up the private network service, and the way they do is you just push one button, and it basically provision, deploy provision, do a day one configuration, and then spinning up the management dashboard automatically. It's resilient. Cloud, it doesn't matter how well you build software. Software will fail. How you handle the failure is, differentiated one from the other. And, cloud native environment, unless the whole infrastructure fail, the cloud native application with the proper configure and proper deploy a cloud native environment is quite resilient, meaning that, the failure, it will fail. But it's designed to fail. It's designed for the service to fail and make sure that, for example, if a microservice fail, it's fine, but the whole service will not fail along just because one microservice fail. That's a resilient philosophy of cloud native foundation, and runs anywhere. And runs anywhere is important when you start thinking about private network, because as we see on the previous slide, some of this 5G workload, for example, the UPF. Well, I don't have UPF here. The UPF may get deployed at the edge of the, on-prem, at the enterprise, and in order to be able to do that, we want to make sure that we want to be able to spin and be able to allocate the workload to the edge very quickly, very dynamically. Now, when we work with the early adopter, some of the question that came up was, who's providing the cloud native environment? Is it a homegrown? Is it a vendor providing it? Or it come with the cloud infrastructure itself? For example, if you use AWS, this will come with it. Okay, if you go with the Oracle Cloud, this will come with it. Who's providing the infrastructure? Are we still want to build our own private cloud, or we want an SI to do it, or we want to use web scaler, the public cloud infrastructure, multiple vendor environment? How do we handle multiple environment within this environment? Is there going to be a finger pointing? So when we work with the operator, we basically help them understand how to use this cloud native tool to basically manage multiple vendor when they start deploying within a multiple vendor environment and things like that. Another thing to consider is in the slide that you see the early adopter, you see one of the operator has 4 different cloud native environment deployed from 4 different vendor. Now, this is something that you may want to avoid. And what will happen is that, if you have, even though they are in fact cloud native, they might implement different version, they might different tool set and things like that, make it difficult to operate. So, and then another thing that you may want to avoid is this may lead into a vendor lock-in. Certain vendor basically take cloud native environment and start modifying it to match what they need. And then when they do that, then you're stuck with that. It basically create a branch, and then you pretty much stuck with that branch as long as you use that vendor. So you might fall into that vendor lock-in. Another area that the early adopter thinks about a lot is agility. And as I mentioned, the question before is that, will an enterprise wait 6 months before we're rolling out a new feature or new bug fixes? And the answer is more than likely no. If enterprise, one thing about enterprise marketplace is that if you don't move, somebody will move it for you. And so, if you don't move fast, somebody will grab it and run with it. So, and, we've heard a lot about operator require the vendor to have DevOps and CI/CD pipeline, continuous integration and continuous deployment pipeline. But none of the operator is ready for it. It's one of those things that the operator heard associated with the cloud native and said, I want it. I want the pipeline. But when they actually understand what involved in the pipeline, they're not really ready for it at all. Take a look at this pipeline real quick. So, take Oracle. When we built, we use DevOps to build our 5G solution. And we use Agile process. And then with that Agile process, we basically could potentially release a new software once a week. It's actually faster than that, right? Releasing software once a week into the operator environment is unheard of. And nobody right now, and maybe in the future, can handle that yet. Now, if you look at this CI/CD pipeline, so let's say we release the software to the pipeline, the operator going to have to start looking at, building a repository so that you have a fallback, and then go into continuous testing. What about automated testing? The test configuration repository, so that you can do automated testing. Automated testing is the only way you can do continuous testing. Continuous integration. Another candidate repository, automated end-to-end testing. And then after that, the deployment itself, the network lifecycle management, how do you manage the lifecycle of the software? Day 1 and day 2 configuration repository. So, if you bring up the new network function, 5G network function, you have the day 1 and day 2 configuration ready to basically deploy with that network function. And then continuous operation, using the AI/ML to look at the optimizing the operation, optimizing the network, detecting the issue of the network, managing quality of experience, doing a closed loop control. And then after that, plug this pipeline into the enterprise pipeline. So this is what involved in doing a CI/CD. And if you look at the early adopter, this is the area that they fall a little short on. And the reason why is that it involves a lot of organization within the operator organization. It involves testing, it involves operation, it involves business at the end of the pipeline. So this is one of the area that we have to really keep an eye on. Closed loop automation. And closed loop automation. If you're part of the TMN, the TMN forum, there's a lot of push for the closed loop automation. You have the observation, you have the business rule, you have the action, and you have the resources. And the persona that use this automation might be business people. Try to figure it out how well the service offering being accepted by the marketplace. Operational, how optimizes my network, and it can be used by the IT department, by the mobile network operation team, by various different teams. Action. Once the business might say, okay, well, I sign up a new customer, it issued the action. The action issued the command to the resources to basically say, okay, spinning up a new network slice for this new enterprise. And then the analytic system basically create the insight and observation to say that, the new network slice has been spinning up and the user experience is good. And then it start going back into the closed loop control again. This is one very big area that the early adopter also spending time on. And if you look at the automation, it doesn't occur in just networking, but it also occur in the service layer as well as the business layer. Within the current 5G, the automation focus is at the network resource automation and the 5G service automation itself being in the network slice management and the slice lifecycle management. This what within the service layer, this is where a lot of time being spent working with the standard organization and then try to figure out how to actually implement it. The network resource automation, this is actually being done as part of the rolling out the 5G standalone architecture itself. But when you look at this layer of automation, they don't occur as a separate. They do separate they do have separate layer, but there's cross-domain automation as well. And this is a new thinking because as you can see, right, when you start going to the cloud native route, then you start thinking about the CI/CD pipeline. CI/CD pipeline involve various different organizations. You have the business, you have the service layer, you have the network people, kind of like come together within this pipeline. Now, when things come together, things happen in the network will affect service. Things happen in the network may provide insight into the business, and then things that happen in the business will affect the network. So the cross-domain automation basically address the automation that occur across different domains. And analytic is part of that. And then analytic and automation goes hand in hand. If you look at analytics, right, and then everybody talk about AI, ML, machine learning, and and the fallacy that a lot of people think is that, oh, you know what, I don't need to learn the technology. I don't need to worry about it. The machine will basically help me doing all this stuff. The machine cannot do what it's not told to do. There are things that the ML can do, but there are people that need to basically teach how the machine should work. But this analytic system, when you start evaluate analytic system, and this is what we learn working with the early adopter, is that the analytic system that we invest the money in need to be able to provide insight that is beneficial to both network, service layer, as well as a business layer. And the reason why is that, as I mentioned, things affect each other. The layer doesn't have separation. The layer, things happen in one layer will eventually affect the other layer. Since we go into this, we march into this direction. Now, in order to do that, you have to think about the data domain. Okay, when we look at the network, we look at the network data. When we look at the service, we look at the service domain data. When we look at the business, we look at the business data. But the analytic system look at everything, because it needs to provide insight that may happen within the network layer and impact the business layer. So all this data need to be considered in totality. Now, when you start looking at this data, though, this is quite a bit of data, right? And this is why the new role of the organization within the mobile, within the operator, is going to be the data science. Data scientists gonna play a key role within this area of automation and analytics, in order to basically take advantage of all this cross-domain data set and be able to train the machine to be able to recognize the pattern, to do predictive analysis, to do failure analysis, to do optimization in the cross-domain that is happening across all this domain within the operation. Last slide, not last yet, but the M&O transformation itself. So we have this industry value chain. One thing that that Oracle has that is quite unique is that we have vertical industry. We have construction. Oracle communication is one of the vertical. We also have construction vertical. Within Oracle, we have utility, like electric utility, vertical within Oracle. And what I've learned is that there are many players within the value chain, within each vertical. If you look at the construction, there are people that are very good at doing concrete. There are people that very good at doing planning, and things like that. So in order for M&O, to be part of that value chain, we have to learn to build ecosystem, and that requires transformation. Within the our industry, and forgive me if I say this, our industry is quite close. We like to hold everything close to ourselves. But in order to be part of this value chain, though, we have to be able to adapt, to build partner, to treat partner well, and build the right ecosystem, build new revenue model, keep up a little bit of control. And that will keep us, bring us a long way of doing this. Financial process, what kind of new KPI do I need? Do I have the right tool? For example, do you have a right tool to bring in a new partner? Do you have the right tool to bring in the partner when you want to go offering a private network to a particular vertical? And automation. Another transformation, and I think we know this quite well, is operational paradigm. In the past, we have this big network operations center, which look very nice, big screen and everything else. And then we use network monitor. We basically bring everything, every single thing from the network into network monitor. And then we basically, this network monitor basically turn the network node red or green and things like that. And then, we send people to do debugging, to fix the problem. Now, this operational paradigm has been there for the last, since 2G, right? Now, with this new cloud native environment, though, if we want to take advantage of a cloud native environment, then, this paradigm needs to change. It's not the network operation anymore. It's a network service operation. It's a partner service. It's a cloud service operation. All of this needs to be looked at in totality because everything connected to each other. Then okay, the buck stop right here. And then you hand, a piece of paper and then you forget about that problem. Everything kind of like connected to each other. So the operation team need to understand that, something happened in the cloud service. I need to understand that because it will impact the network service and it will impact the partner service or the enterprise service that I partner with. So with that, with all these things that I scare everybody already, the next poll question is, are your enterprise organization ready to 5G rollout? If you want to go with a cloud native method, number one is, bring it on. I'm ready to go. I got everything, that I need. And number two is, nope. But I know there's a lot to be done. And number three, C, is no. And I don't have expertise and I need help. Okay. Let's take a look at the result. Okay. Quite a bit, happened. But if I count no twice, right? No one. So 60% no, and then 40% 40% yes. This is actually 40% yes is quite high. consider what you need to go through in order to do to deploy 5G in to achieve the alignment with the enterprise by doing cloud native. So in summary, okay, 5G requires a heuristic approach. It's not just a point technical. It's not just technical. It's business process. It's automation. And then that become part of the analytics and then the operation. And all of this tie together. They springboard with each other. And it start off by, we take a commitment saying that this is the direction I wanted to go. And, based on that direction, I believe that the logical technical realization, the first step is to basically commit it to the cloud native implementation of 5G services. And this is why, Oracle strategy is that, we are absolutely committed to the cloud native philosophy. And, and the reason why is that we've been doing that for the longest time. Our database services, our fusion services, a lot of the services that we have on Oracle Cloud are all cloud native. And the way we build 5G is also cloud native. If we have a chance to sit down, half a day and look at how we implement our 5G network function, you see that, it's all microservices, it's all container managed by Kubernetes. And, and then it basically maintains its own KPI and everything else, basically using this philosophy. It helps us achieve scale, web scale, not talking about 20 million, talking about 100 millions. Unlock the vertical industry. Okay. A lot, as I mentioned before, we have a lot of vertical industry in Oracle. And every one of them is heading toward the cloud native. To be very frank with you, some of them are not quite there yet. But some of them are already there and take advantage of that cloud native bring to the table already. And the last one is the insight. Once you start doing automation, then you start getting a lot of insight from the network, from the business, from the social media, from other enterprise services that be running on the cloud native. You get all those, and then be able to get a lot of insight in how the network are operating, how the customer is using your service, how the enterprise, how much they like your service, or what kind of problem are they experiencing, with your service. So this is my last slide. So hopefully, this gives you kind of like a very high level view of how cloud native could be part of the first step in a very long journey toward achieving this alignment with the enterprise in both technical alignment, business alignment, business insight, lifecycle management, and everything else that comes along with it. So with that, I will turn this over to the MC. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dan, for your very insightful presentation. I think everybody can get a lot of very good insight from you today. And now we have on the floor, there is one question. Applications can be cloud native and container based. How about database? Since database of services is typically to be cloud native and container based too. Then can you answer this question from our audience?
Okay. Yes. There are certain part of the database that doesn't rent itself well as a microservice or container. You can containerize pretty much anything you want to. right? But in order to really take advantage of the container, you want to basically decompose a lot of the application, to be more of a microservice. So, certain part of the database services are not rent itself well into the microservice, but it can be done as a container base.
Okay, so we have another questions. In the US, this cloud native architecture are being used in private LTE, CBRS deployment. Do you foresee small countries will adopt CBRS like spectrum usage, or most will be licensed?
I did a study on the private network about a month ago, and I did a survey on the unlicensed and shared spectrum. CBRS is a shared spectrum, and it's very specific to the U.S. market. Okay, but there is a lot of the unlicensed spectrum available that can be used for the private network, especially if you look at Japan, right? Japan also start thinking about doing the shared spectrum as well, but they also do have the unlicensed spectrum. So unlicensed spectrum is quite a bit more available. In Europe, though, they also start doing a licensed spectrum for the private network as well. So I think we still have to wait and see, how the spectrum going to work out for the private network, because shared spectrum requires some infrastructure, but shared spectrum provided a level of quality of service that can achieve what the 5G promises, whereas the unlicensed spectrum is kind of like competing with each other. So, the quality of service may not be able to guarantee on the unlicensed spectrum.
Okay, thank you, Dan. And I have one question for you, Dan. Why would an MNO evolve from 5G NSA to 5G SA?
The reason why is that, number one, eventually 3G gonna be sunset, and 3G and I say that and I smile, right? We see that 2G is still around still, but eventually they're gonna have to start moving off from 3G. There'll be 3G pocket of 3G somewhere around the world, for a while, but without 3G though, it will be hard to do voice for the NSA, because NSA a lot of the NSA deployment rely on circuit switch fallback to do voice service, because they're not quite ready. A lot of the operator has not deployed IMS yet for voice services. So in order to do that, right? If they want to get away from 3G, then they need to start moving, start implementing IMS. And if they implement IMS, then they will start looking at taking advantage of other 5G service like network slicing. In order to, for example, when an operator builds an IMS, right? One question that needs to be asked is that, okay, from the architectural point of view, do I want to build a single IMS that's shared by many slices, or do I want an IMS that can be instantiated per slice? And that question needs to be answered when they start building that infrastructure. So, if they build it so that they can support 5G SA, then they can start taking advantage of the 5G SA after that. So, that's one of the reasons why, the operator that start deploying 5G non-standalone may want to start moving toward the 5G standalone. But, to be very clear, right, there's a lot of operator also that's saying that I am okay with the 5G non-standalone at this point. Okay, I don't have an inspiration and I'm not quite ready to start engaging enterprise yet. Okay, so, and without enterprise, right, then you don't have a lot of the IoT use cases that you need to climb up on the value chain. And without that, then you basically end with the connectivity. And then you don't have to worry about edge computing. You don't have to worry about low latency application, which is fine, if the operator doesn't have that inspiration. But as you can see, from the survey that the analysts did, there are almost half of the non-standalone do have that inspiration to basically want to start exploring the business with the enterprise as a new revenue generation, and that's the reason why they want to start moving toward the 5G standalone architecture.
Thank you very much, Ben. So we have another question here. What kind of partner should an MNO be looking for?
Difficult question.
This is the last question.
Yeah, because then no one kind, right? As you can see, there's a lot of partner that that the MNO need to build, but it really depends on the timing. So, during the early rollout, right, the partner is going to be, the usual partner like the vendor, system integrator, and things like that. But once the service is up and running, and then you start courting the vertical industry, start courting the enterprise, this is going to be different kind of partner completely. The partner that you might want to look at is the player that is part of the value chain within the vertical that you want to go into. Take an example, utility like electrical company, or supply chain management. You have a lot of players within that value chain, and depends on which part of the value chain you want to insert your service into, or you might want to be part of that value chain yourself. That will dictate, what kind of partner you want to work with from the business standpoint. What kind of you might have a business partner where your service need to work with each other, or you might have another type of partner, which is a much tighter partner, so that their service is part of your service and your service is part of their service itself. So, there are different type of partner that you need to start looking at. But, but without going into the industry, without understanding the vertical, you will have a hard time finding out what partner you want to partner with, because there are no ready-made recipe saying, here's a partner that you want to work with. It's really up to the direction, the vertical, the enterprise that you want to go after.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben. Very good answer.
You're welcome.
Now we come to the end of the session today. Now, may we invite Mr. Frank Lai, Honorable Advisor of CAHK, to deliver his closing remarks. Mr. Lai, please.
Hi. Thank you all the participants. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. I found it really inspiring and informative. And also thank you, Stephen Hall, our honorary chairman of CA Hong Kong. In particularly, I have to thank you, Dan, and the Oracle Communication team for this informative presentation and experience sharing. 5G has been one of the hottest topics of digital transformation in the recent years. The whole telecom industry believes that 5G will be one of the key business growth drivers for all carriers and internet service providers. How to utilize and monetize 5G products to enhance business competitiveness is the common interest of telcos, and it needs the collaborations between telcos and our partners like Oracle. And I take this opportunity here, mention a little bit more about our CA Hong Kong DT Forum and its vision. CA Hong Kong DT Forum aims to build a community for knowledge sharing and experience sharing, and also for networking to facilitate communication and collaborations amongst industries, telcos, their partners, governments, and other sections in terms of the adoption of digital transformation. We regularly, like today, invite experienced keynote speakers and panelists from different industries to deliver a series of inspiring virtual and hybrid sessions. We will cover various DT topics, including 5G, edge computing, Internet of Things, NFT, big data, AI, and so on. We are not just sharing the theories, but emphasize more on local and international use cases and practical solutions. We hope to support not only enterprises, but also SMEs to develop their DT strategy and start their DT journey. All these activities will be conducted on the CA Hong Kong DT Forum virtual event platforms. It is an info hub where you can register for the upcoming events. We play video recordings like today's you have of all the previous and also all the previous events, and download the events handouts and the white papers. Later in the next year, you can even build your own contact point or virtual booth for exhibition in our platform and networking with your target audience for the business development. You are always welcome to visit our platform at any time. Once again, thank you all again. We are looking forward to seeing you and keeping you posted on the CA Hong Kong DT Forum webinar series 2022. Thank you very much.